Hello and welcome to Mystical and Mysteries, the podcast. Join your host, Olivia Dybert, a psychic medium mom, as she discusses true crime, missing and cold cases, paranormal investigations, psychic medium development, and much more. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Hi guys, welcome back. We are going to be talking today about Alexis, Gabe. And this one really kind of hit me pretty hard when I did this reading. Alexis is 24 years old and my oldest daughter is 23. And even though they all hit me really hard, for whatever reason, this one really hit me hard. She's a 24-year-old nursing student, bright, beautiful. I mean, look at her picture. She's gorgeous. And to not know where or what happened to your family member it's got to be devastating. So, like I said, they all are, and they all hit you really differently. But this one, I think it's just because I have a 23-year-old, so I can kind of relate to that age group and that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about Alexis Gabe and her case, and then I'm going to tell you about my reading, because this one so here's the deal. When I do missing persons cases, I use my psychic abilities in order to tap into getting the bigger picture of what happened. And I really try to turn off my mediumship because of incidences that happened like it did with this particular case. I'm going to get to it later. So, but this is one of the reasons why I work in psychic ability and try to work in it only by itself. But let's get back to Alexis. Alexis went missing the night of January 26th of 2022. And she disappeared under very suspicious circumstances. She was last known, her last known location was Bent Tree Way in Antioch, California. Alexis did live with her family, and when she didn't come home, the family knew where she was going because she told them. And so the family called Jones, and Jones did confirm that she was there, but left at 9 o'clock. And Jones is Alexis's ex-boyfriend. So when she disappeared and she didn't come back home, the Gabes organized a search party, and her car was found on January 27th. Her vehicle was found in a dead-end street approximately 5 miles away from her last known whereabouts, and her keys were still in the ignition. The weird thing was that the car was about 5 minutes away from Alexis's home. So, and it's in an area that she would have no business being in. So it was just a little odd, like everything else. So her car was found, and I believe it was this search party that was organized by the Gabes. They're the ones, and I believe it's family and friends, they're the ones that found the vehicle. The big deal here, though, is that they also caught surveillance video of someone that they think might have been involved with her disappearance. And the description was a male, 5'11" to 6 foot, slim build, dark skin, wearing a large jacket, a beanie or a cap, and his face was covered with an N95 mask. And there was a beard protruding from underneath that mask. Well, guess who lives on Bent Tree Way and who fits the description caught on the surveillance video? That's correct. Her ex-boyfriend, Marshall Curtis Jones, who was 27 years old. And like I mentioned before, Alexis did tell her family that she was going over to her ex-boyfriend's house, and then she just never came home. So right away, I think the PD and everybody were suspecting him of something, right? So on May 12th, though, Oakley PD served a search warrant for Jones's home on Bent Tree Way. And it was soon after Alexis went missing that Jones moved out of state. So if you're not guilty, then why act guilty, in my opinion? This is something that I felt was very out of character for him. There was no reason for him to leave the state, but it was days after she disappeared that he ended up moving out to Seattle. He has family and possibly friends or associates out there in Seattle. On May 13th, investigators and the Class Kids Foundation were conducting a search. And during this search, the Class Kids Foundation, who, by the way, they are connected to the Polly Klaus Foundation. Do you remember Polly Klaus? She was kidnapped. But these guys are trained professional search and rescue people. And this is so super important, you guys. Searching for someone, it's always really, really good to have training in this, because there's a pattern of how you walk, and there's things that you should know when you actually possibly could find something. So it's wonderful that they had this group of volunteers, this group actually found a key piece of evidence during their search, and that piece of evidence was Alexis's cell phone case. It was pretty unique, and I believe she had it made, and so it was a picture of Tupac, but like a cartoon character picture of Tupac on the back. The big part of this is that they actually found DNA evidence of not only Alexis on the phone, but of Jones, her ex-boyfriend. So that's a pretty key piece of evidence that was discovered by the Class Kids Foundation. So kudos to them. Police held that information, though, for about a month or so until they can confirm for a fact that it belonged to Alexis, A, but B, that they had the appropriate amount of time before they said anything out to the public, because you just never know what's going to happen if you divulge too much information to the public, right? So Jones' DNA was again found on the cell phone case, and it sounds like now this could be a misprint, because it was in an article that it said that DNA was found on the phone. I don't remember them ever saying that they found the phone. They found the phone case. So take that with a grain of salt. So they did find DNA evidence, whether it was on the phone or the phone case. And GPS tracking in Alexis's car, along with surveillance footage, revealed a direct path from Jones's home to where her car was found. Jones, of course, was very uncooperative. He refused to talk to police several times. So in essence, by him not talking, it really slowed down the investigation of what happened to Alexis Gabe. Contra Costa District Attorney Diana Becton said that there was sufficient evidence to file a criminal charge against Jones. They had, again, phoners intercept recordings. They had surveillance footage, they had cell phone data, and they had DNA evidence. So Chief Beard from the Oakley PD indicated that it took months for them to kind of piece everything together, so that they could get an arrest warrant issued. Jones was being charged for the murder of Alexis Gabe. So it sounds like they were able to find enough evidence, obviously, to get an arrest warrant. On June 1st of 2022, the Seattle PD, oh God, I'm suck at pronouncing things, you guys. This is something you're going to get used to. Snohomish County Sheriff's Department. I am so sorry if I botched that. I'm just saying. U.S. Marshals were attempting to also arrest Jones at the home in Seattle. Unfortunately, Jones came out charging at the police, and he was shot by the marshals, and he was pronounced dead at the scene, which absolutely freaking sucks, because the one person that may have exactly where Alexis is, the knowledge, right, is now dead. So now what? And this is awful for the family, because the hard part about all of this is, even if they have in their brain that they know that she has passed, but where is she? There's no closure, not even when you have a suspect of where she, of what happened to her, because there's no tangible evidence of that she is dead. And so there's always that glimmer of hope, and that's part of that ambiguous loss that I've talked about before. So Alexis's case is now considered a homicide investigation, and Antioch PD as well as the Oakley PD are still searching for her body, and it is ongoing. So yes, Alexis is still missing, and the only person that we know who may have known where she was is now deceased, which sucks. I plead that if you know anything, possibly heard something, you think you saw something, even if it's something very small, you never know what that one little tiny bit of information could do to find a body and to give the Gabe family some closure. So please, if you know anything, you've seen anything, you heard anything, contact the Oakley PD at 925-625-8060. Again, that's 925-625-8060. You never know what that one little piece of evidence could lead to. So when it comes to my reading, this was very, very difficult for me. Here's my process. I sit down and I normally get a picture or an item like psychometry. I can hold on to something and get information. And I try to request a picture if I possibly can. That just, I don't know, I connect stronger that way. I'm faster too. But I also do automatic writing. So what that means is that I take a deep breath, I kind of clear my brain, and then my hand just starts to write. And I'm not in a trance or anything crazy like that. It's just, it just starts to go. And I'm very conscious of what I'm doing. And but my very first step is usually with a missing person. Are they alive or are they deceased? Because that will change my reading, obviously, and how I go about getting information. So in this case, I close my eyes, take a deep breath, and start to focus. And I start seeing scenes of Alexis with a young male sitting on a couch watching TV. And then I tap in again and I get another image of her out with the same male. And so I keep getting these scenes with this male. And the weird thing about this is she's smiling, she's happy, she's laughing. And I'm like, this is bizarre. I have no idea what's going on here, because from what I get from Alexis, she's so family oriented. The Gabes are such a family oriented group that I can't imagine she would just leave and not tell her family where she's going. That's how close-knit they are. And so this was baffling to me. I wrote on my paper, alive. And I started to try to write, and nothing was coming. And I just felt wrong. It just felt wrong. I'm like, she's not alive. I don't think that she's alive. I think this is very bizarre. I don't know what's going on. And I realized that it was Alexis showing me snippets of her relationship. Now, my understanding from the Gabe family was that they had been together for about 3 or 3.5 years, and it was a very loving relationship in the beginning. And I think this is what Alexis was trying to tell me. Like, it was more than just the ending, and which makes sense. And I've had readings before where maybe someone was responsible for their own death and they won't let me see the death. And I felt like she was doing the same thing, and she wanted people to focus on what happened before and not necessarily what happened at the end. So once I realized it was Alexis showing me these things, I literally had to talk to her and say, Alexis, I completely understand what you're trying to tell me, but here's the deal. I need you to step back Because if I can find your body and bring your family some closure, that is what my goal is when I do these cases. So she must have stepped back a little bit, because all of a sudden I started getting flooded with more imagery, and it was imagery of what I believe happened that evening. I do believe that she got hit, that Jones struck her a few times. And then I saw his hands coming right around her neck area, to shoulders to neck, and then it blocked again. So my other senses kicked in because I got blocked, and I started feeling pain. So this doesn't happen all the time for me, but it does happen sometimes where I literally physically feel the pain of someone else. The pain started in the back of my ears, which was so crazy. And then it kind of traveled down my neck, and then I felt like I just couldn't breathe. And I felt like something broke. So I'm not a medical person, so I'm not going to try to name what I feel broke here. But something broke in here, and I just couldn't breathe anymore. I feel like everything swelled, and I just couldn't breathe anymore. And it was really hard. It was really hard to see this. And I do believe I was in a home, because I could see a living room and a dining room. And I feel like Jones, once Alexis passed, I feel like he picked her up and moved her. And I'm not quite sure. At that point, I kind of felt like he walked out the garage and put her in a vehicle. And I do believe now that it's Alexis's vehicle that he put her in. And I believe he dumped her and somewhere between his house and where her vehicle was found. My confidence rating on that section of it is like a 4 or 5. It's not as confident because I was having a really hard time seeing this, but this is kind of what I felt. And now I know I saw him walking, and I saw him going towards like a shopping center, I believe was a outdoor shopping center. So I now know that has been verified for me, because they finally put out the video of the surveillance video showing Jones walking. And I did see that. I didn't see him with the mask on or anything. I just saw like a dark shadow moving. And to me, that was him walking at nighttime, because it was very dark. And this was such a difficult case. I will say that when I asked to see where her body was, I did see dry grass. That could be anywhere. And this is what gets very difficult for me, is I can see a scene, but it could be like a 20-mile, radius or whatever. Maybe the whole area from Jones's house to where her car was found looks exactly the same. And that's what makes it really difficult, because I could see low mountains. So that tells me the mountains were far away, because they were kind of low and in the background. And I saw really dark grass. But I actually saw this road that makes me feel like it's a back road, which is kind of weird, because I live up here in the country, and a back road would be completely different than what I saw. This was more like an expressway or a road that's used a lot. And Jones is very familiar with this road. I do feel like it is very close to a freeway. And that's why it's like the back road. So I'm originally from California. So I will tell you, if you can try to get away from taking the freeway, then normally we try to do that, because the freeway is usually bumper to bumper. And but in this case, I feel like it's a back road from that main freeway, if that makes any sense. And Jones is very familiar with this particular road. I think he travels it quite often. But so that kind of was my reading in a nutshell. And it's one of the reasons why I work with my psychic ability, because with my psychic ability, I feel like I get both sides of the story. I can see it as a bigger picture. I get information for the perpetrator as well as the victim. I can see more clearly when it comes to the scenery. And when I work with my psychic ability, I can also tap into the perpetrator and try to figure out logic. What was his thinking? I'm pretty good at profiling as well, so I can get their personality. And and that's how I know Alexis's personality, is I tapped into her and I could feel it, the love. Gosh, she's such a loving person and comes from such a loving family. But I did feel like Jones tempered quickly. And unfortunately, the way Alexis made me feel was she knew how to press his buttons. Now, don't come at me, because this is not an excuse. I'm not making an excuse for what he did, because there's no excuse for it. I get that. But she was making me feel like I pushed his buttons and he just snapped. And she is just as surprised as everybody else that he snapped so badly. And I will say that I don't feel it's the first time he has hit her. And so that she kind of expected, but to the extent of what happened, she was just as surprised as anybody else. And if I could just describe his face when I saw it, was pure anger, and it was like he was seeing black. Like there was just no, I don't think he just snapped. He just absolutely freaking snapped. And it's horrible. But I will tell you this, you guys. I feel like, not that she saw it coming, because she was surprised, but there's that gut feeling that you get sometimes. And I'm one of those people that feel like everybody has psychic abilities, right? It's whether you choose to listen to them or not listen to them. And sometimes it's a very fine line of what we do. And people also always explain things as imagination or, but everybody knows and understands a gut feeling. That is your psychic ability. I feel like she had a gut feeling that something badly, she should stop, and she didn't listen to it. She did not listen to her gut feeling. And this is so common with so many cases that I've read. Please listen to those gut feelings, you guys. Do not worry about hurting someone's feelings, because your safety is so much more important than hurting someone's feelings. You can explain yourself later to somebody else, but it's okay to say no, and it's okay to go away. Listen to those gut feelings. They will save you every time. But that, you guys, is the story of Alexis Gabe. That is also my conclusion of my reading. I'm hoping to sit with it a little bit longer and see if I can get more on her whereabouts, because like I said, I do know that they're actively looking for her body. And it just kills me. This just kills me. Again, if you guys are from the Antioch or Oakley area, and you think you may know something, you've overheard something, you saw something, please call Oakley PD. Your little nugget of information just might be the key to finding Alexis's body, and we want to bring home Alexis. We want to bring her home. We want her parents to be able to grieve. 925 625 8060. 925 625 8060. And below, I'm going to provide that phone number. And I'm also going to give a link to the Klaus Foundation. If you want to help, that's the best way to help, is to get trained in search and rescue and start something in your own community that you would be able to help with something like this. That is it for today. I will talk to you guys next week. I thank you for listening. And again, if you feel so inclined, feel free to share Alexis's story. Put up a picture and let's get awareness. Let's not let these cold cases be forgotten. Let's not let them forget. until next time, thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Mystical and Mysteries, the podcast. If you like what you heard, then please remember to hit like and subscribe. Have a burning question for Olivia? Feel free to get in touch. You can reach the Psychic Medium Mom at theclaireconnection.com or on Instagram at theclaireconnection. Until next time, stay safe.